We are rolling, baby.
I am now walking back.
They're all rolling?
They're all rolling.
All rolling.
Everything is rolling. All right. Beautiful day to be at the park.
Side.
Got my coffee, got water, and
Should we do a high five hand clapper?
Capri Sun.
High five hand clapper?
No, I'm all right. But cheers.
Essentials, cheers. Got to start off right.
All natural ingredients. I don't believe that for a second.
We're in an all natural space. Cheers. You already took your first sip. It's fine.
I know that's probably bad luck.
This was ice cold before we pulled it out, and it's literally like room temperature now. It's gross.
It's not enjoyable at all. All right, 25-minute timer for that other camera.
A lot of sugar.
Is set. I'm gonna put this down because I think I'd rather drink coffee for now.
Yeah,
But
this is.
it was worth it to try.
Yeah, I'm probably not gonna finish it. I'll stick with my water. All right, what do we do again?
I think we start talking about things
Okay.
again.
Okay.
I mean, sorry. So, once again, I find myself in a random outdoor area with this guy.
So this time I was walking. I saw this guy sit down, and I was like, "Hey, pal, what do you got going on
This
here?"
bit's getting old, man. But yeah, what do you got going on in your life now since the last time we talked?
Well, it was a great weekend. I got to catch up with some friends. Got to do a little family outing, barbecue, sort of, And it was really nice because it was the first time you get to, I don't know about you, but you ever have those moments of just like being super present and like, oh wow, like guys, real quick, I just want to like take this moment to like this, we're actually here right now. Like this is happening.
Mm-hmm,
And I had one of those. And so I jokingly, I played Bandoleros.
I know that song.
Fast and Furious. Mm-hmm. Family. It's like, I did like a whole Vin Diesel skit and that was cool. What about you?
No, same, man. Got to disconnect a bit, so I hear you. Sometimes it's nice to just slow down but it's weird because, or not weird, but I guess it's even nicer when you usually are busy,
Mm-hmm.
and then you recognize those moments where you slow down and you don't take them for granted when they're happening. You really appreciate them.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm on the same boat, but also at the same time, I feel sometimes uncomfortable when sometimes it's odd, but I feel like I've taken one day off too many, and I'm like, all right, I gotta get back on it. I can't lose my momentum.
Yeah.
And I just don't feel okay. And I guess some people might say, oh, that's hustle culture programming or whatever. But to me, I like it. I enjoy the process of being busy and doing things. And for me, slowing down, there is such thing as slowing down too much for me.
Yeah, we've talked about in private about like you need to have the moments of like not hanging out for so long, so that way when you do hang out or when you have that moment of watching a movie, like I haven't watched a movie in so long, and the time that I do get to watch it was like, wow, there's so much emphasis. Or going to like the theater,
it's more meaningful to you now
because I don't do it often.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the same thing with like hanging out with family, friends, hanging out. I think, and it's funny, like you almost want that relationship with work. It's like, oh, I have like imagine you don't work, you do so much like fun, or not, I don't want to say work isn't fun, but like so much activities that aren't work.
Right.
And then you come into work, it's like, wow, that day felt productive. It's like trying to psych yourself. I only need to work. Yeah, I shouldn't do this every day, so that way I can have that relationship.
That's funny.
I wish it worked like that. But one thing I want to speak on or just cover is like, this is officially episode 2 out of how many ever episodes this is going to be.
Let's see how long we can do this.
Yeah, we do have a lot of things in the works.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really, I don't know what the status is going to be when this episode comes out, but ultimately, hopefully we'll have a logo dialed in.
Yep,
we got
some
our
branding
figured out, and this morning had a nice meeting, coffee, figuring those details out, and now seeing things come to life. It's exciting because now we're going to tie a face, a staple to what this is going to be.
Yeah.
So,
love it.
Yeah.
And I mean, without saying too much, it's interesting because now it's almost like this project is almost like a testing grounds right now with what's happening with AI. It's almost like a.
Love that.
It's
Love
almost
that
like a
segue.
little.
By the way, we talked about before. Hey, what are we going to talk about?
Yeah.
I think.
So that was supposed to be a clever segue into
Yeah,
the
no, I
topic
need to.
without
I
letting
need to
you
let it
guys
out
know.
there because I would have just laughed the entire time. I was like, this guy.
He started cracking up.
Yeah,
I was
I'm
trying
like-
to figure out a way to connect. It's all this producing stuff,
So,
right? We're
but
always
I
trying to
think
figure out to weave these stories together. And
I think part of what this is going to be is super transparent.
yeah,
like-
exactly.
Like, hey,
Yep.
hey, it can't be the same episode 1, just shooting the shit, talking.
We,
you
we,
know.
we need a direction and a purpose to all this.
There needs to be
Yeah.
value, and I think there's value in everything, but ultimately like direct value. And so we talked about, hey, having a topic to talk about, what our thoughts are, feedback, and so AI is booming now.
Yep.
I've actually started just my relationship with AI. Like I've started to implement it into my business, and I'm loving it because now it gives me more time or it allows me to push more volume and not have to really sit down, be stuck to one location to get that type of work done.
Yep.
It's all automated. And yeah, I love it. I mean, to open it up, your thoughts on AI?
I mean, right now, at least for the time being, I'm a little scared. I'm a little worried. You know, there's that apprehensiveness at first because, again, it's like, how much of our jobs is this going to eliminate? Is that something we should fear? Is it something we should embrace? Is it going to make our lives easier? You know, that's where my mind is right now. It's like, but at the same time, I feel like I should get familiar with it because I don't want to get left behind because every now and then, every couple of years, a new technology comes out that changes the game. And for example, let's say, when we went from, I don't know what you call it, analog cameras, I guess, to digital. And there was that crowd that was like, no, I'm not switching to digital, but then they got left in the dust.
Right.
So I feel like this is another one of those things where we've learned from the past enough that you can't just ignore these things, you gotta embrace them.
It's interesting because I had this conversation with my uncle. We were going for a hike, a walk with the dogs, and part of what we were talking about is like, it's interesting, everything's just patterns. With the internet, when it came out, I was born in 99, and so like I was in the midst of, I had a flip phone, or my dad had a flip phone, and I played on his flip phone games and things like that. My uncle had a BlackBerry. I saw what that was like. My friend in like grammar school had a Sidekick, and like to see the evolution of phones, and then Apple dropped the iPhone, and like I used to go to a library, and I was talking about it the other day. It's like we used to have to go into a library to access the internet.
Yep.
At least I did, right? And like I'm not old, but ultimately it was like seeing the progression. It's like, oh wow, I just realized I was having a moment where I was driving. Don't do this. This is
not something you should
yeah.
do. This is just
I wanted an answer to something right then and there, and what do? I Google it. I just pull it up. Oh, I got the answer. Okay, great. You imagine living in a time. And this is where it's like that's crazy to me that like that was a time before where if you needed an answer to something, you couldn't just pull out your phone in your pocket. You had to go to a location. Hopefully you still remember what you want to,
right.
like what it was.
Hopefully you wrote it down.
You wrote it down, yeah. And so it's crazy how we're able to consume at such a fast rate and how much we're able to produce. But now it's starting to get, the question is it getting too much? Where it's like now we're eliminating every like part of what makes us human or things of that nature. Just to, again, there's no real structure or order that we have for the conversation, but
I was just gonna say, being that it's a creative soup podcast, I guess the way we should maybe segue into this is how does this affect creatives?
Yeah. So what do how do you think it's gonna directly impact creatives?
I think volume, we're gonna be able to do a lot more. However, I guess right now where I'm at is I'm questioning, does this limit creativity? Does this improve creativity? You know, also like, so for example, as a video editor, usually you would be an assistant video editor going to being a full-time video editor. That would be the traditional path. But now a lot of this AI technology is taking over a lot of what an assistant editor would do. That's being automated. So I feel like, where's that connection? Like how do you become an editor now when you don't go through those loops?
And I think you're 100% right. I just can't help but think of, you need to be a high caliber individual. You can't just be an editor. You can't just be a DP anymore. You can't just, like, a film is a whole different realm, but when
Right.
it comes to the type of work that we do, more commercial or working with businesses specifically, I believe you need to be a creative partner ultimately. Like you need to be something that when you walk into a client or a potential client that you want to work with, and you walk into their business, you have not only a solution to a problem they may have, but you need to be that ever evolving partner where it's like, hey, there's this new thing going on. How do we take it? How do we implement this? And like be that consultant. I think we talked about this last time, but it's like being a consultant rather than just be this guy that like I take cool pictures or I take a really cool video. And it sucks that I feel like I lost that creative link in myself. Like even now, for example, I'm looking at the angles and I'm like, honestly, if Jesse's happy with it, I could care less.
Because you're taking a back seat from that standpoint.
Yeah, it's like
a little
before I used to be like, oh, is the foreground, are we getting foreground? Are we getting, and like now, hey, are we gonna be able to produce this podcast? Are all the cameras working? Like functionality.
Yeah.
And I think I'm now, my relationship with AI is a lot more, I'm embracing it because now all I'm about is functionality. How is this gonna help my client? How is this gonna benefit the work that we do? Because again, I can't help but be a high caliber individual. I hate to call myself that, but ultimately it's like
That's your goal. That's your daily goal.
Right. I don't do photos. I don't do like web design, all different email marketing, all these different elements. It keeps me on my toes. It keeps me, hey, great, you got this skill, this you put the water in that bucket. What are the other buckets you need to fill up? Is it like communication now?
Yep.
I think human communication now more than ever is super, super important. If you're not a individual that focuses on delivering certain messages or communicating in a human realm, that's what's going to separate you from the person that writes a cool email. Because guess what? How are you going to differentiate between an AI and a human email? You probably can't.
Yeah.
But when it comes to in-person interaction, oh, you know what? Like, let's fast forward 20 years from now. Everything's automated, everything's digital, you don't see anyone anymore. But when you do see, going back to, we're tying it full circle really quickly, is like having those moments of not experiencing something for so long, and when you do, it's so refreshing. So human interaction, at least in my opinion, is going to be that much more impactful. So what are you doing as a creative suit to be that person that it's like, I want him to be in my day-to-day. I want to have those monthly calls with him. I don't want him to just show up and like give me a deliverable that AI could do, Mid-Journey could do, and give me like produce that. I want to have that interaction. I think that's where people are losing sight of like, AI is going to replace it. Sure, it's going to replace the boring work, the admin work.
Right. So do you think the focus should now be on being a better leader, being a better persona, being a better manager?
You can't be average.
Yeah.
You just can't. It's unfortunate. I can't help, even like yourself, like you have that ambition, you have the initiative, that drive. And I think for people that don't have that or aren't actively searching for it, they're in trouble. And I think it's a beautiful thing because there's an opportunity in everything. There's an opportunity for these individuals to now be like, well, I can't just be a junior editor anymore. Not even a senior editor. Like I can't. So what do I have to do? Okay, I got to go do this or do that. Like one thing I want to share my experience with AI is we had a meeting with a client of ours, and hey, I built an automation that takes the recording of the Zoom call, it downloads an MP3 file, I upload it to a Google Drive, and it automatically triggers a series of events. And I would love your feedback on camera to like what you think of it. And it just what did you
beyond
experience?
The initial fear and dread that I felt when he showed me this? It's just like the fact that you don't need to be focused on taking notes or being a scribe, let's say, in a meeting, and you could be all in on the meeting knowing that the AI is not going to only output notes, but also the thing that really blew my mind is the action steps. How the hell is this thing detecting action steps to let you know what's next? It's just like, it makes no sense to me. But it makes life not only easier, it makes it more fun and more efficient. And now it's like, well, now we can just get down to the nitty gritty and I don't got to worry about so much of this admin stuff and be even more present than you were before.
I think now if I had to put a label on it, like the same way how would you define film, right? What hats do you have to wear? What roles or what positions would you have to be, right? You have to be, let's call it a DP, a director, an editor, a producer.
Gaffer,
all-
etc.
right?
Yeah.
You name it. You could bullet points. One of the things I would say you need to add to that list of things as a creative now is a prompt engineer. You need to know how to speak to AI. You need to know how to
Yeah.
utilize it, because all the creators that are going to be working on their craft and doing all these cool edits and from the creative standpoint, they're going to be using AI to help them produce more volume at that quality. A lot of people are, I feel like, falling behind with the idea of like, no, AI can't produce what I do. And I think it's very naive of them to think like that.
Yeah.
I just look at it as like, okay, worst case scenario, it can produce a Christopher Nolan film, maybe. Let's just say that's like the worst case scenario, or like the best case scenario in AI's case.
Yep.
It can produce something of that caliber. Okay, what's the solution? What do you do? What's the,
You gotta learn to code. You gotta learn to read code. Adjust code.
It sounds crazy. Like you would never think like film,
But it makes
code
sense,
now.
because what are kids learning in school now? Aside from languages, they're learning coding early on.
That is a form of language.
Yeah.
You need to learn how to speak to AI. So prompt engineering, you heard it here first, from a Creative Suit podcast. It's something you don't take lightly. I was telling my mom the other, like I was showing her like the thing that I built with the AI. I was like,
Oh,
look,
man, what was
main
what was her
points.
reaction?
Her job is that role. Essentially,
Right.
It's being able to report certain information to this department and all these different things. And I'm like, thankfully, or like, not like, my mom's at that point in her career where it's like she's soon gonna retire. So AI at that point, and when it starts to like really start to be like A1, she'll by that point already be retired. But I look at it as just like, hey, you can either be my grandmother. Another example, my grandmother has an iPhone. You would think at her age, she's 75. Who needs to learn new technology? Why would I take time out of my day
Right.
to
Yeah.
learn?
Yeah.
Like,
At
this
that
point,
it's
listen,
like, come on.
I just want to live my life.
Yep.
You should see her photo album. She's using like the flow, stopping, right? Like grabs it, and that to us is like normal. But to see her do it, I was laughing. I was driving, and I see her like navigating through WhatsApp and all these other things, and I'm just like, yo, this is my grandmother that's doing this. And you have, when I used to work at Best Buy, you had like these 40-year-olds. You kids and your technology.
Right. Not
like
embracing
that,
it.
Yeah. And it's saying like, I don't need to. This is why I have kids, or this is why. It's like that's not the right way to think about it.
So let's talk a little bit about workflow too, because I'm really interested in that when it comes to AI. What did your workflow look like before AI versus after implementing it? What's changed? Let's say even when it comes from creative ideation, storyboarding, all the way down to delivering an edit.
So my situation now is definitely a bit different. As we mentioned in the first episode, I'm more in the soup position. So a lot of my day-to-day tasks now are more around meetings, reviewing those meetings, finding out where, putting it together proposals and sort of figuring out, okay, what are certain budgets, more of the boring stuff. But ultimately it's required in order to keep the business growing. So strategy. So now my day-to-day is have a meeting, record that meeting, write my notes down, be present, make sure that I'm really actively listening, and then going back, reviewing that meeting. So let's say the meeting's 2 hours long, so that's a 2-hour meeting. On top of that, I'm playing it back. I can't do the whole, I'll do like 2x speed, but like sometimes I have to pause, right? Maybe let me break this down even more. It's taking me another more or less 2 hours, almost like video editing, right? You shoot an event 8 hours long.
So half a day is already gone.
Exactly. Half a day's already gone, just reviewing a meeting. And then, by the way, that doesn't mean that I'm going to do business with this individual or not. This is just the things that at least in my business, my process, I need to do in order to see if we're a good fit.
Yep.
So going through that entire process now, so half a day now turns into, I just have that meeting, AI generates for me the main points, the summary. Oh, on top of that, this is how real lazy I am when it comes to reviewing now. I have this app that reads it to me. So now I'm not
have to read it anymore.
I'm not even reading it. I'm going for my walks in beautiful nature.
It's reading off to you in your ear and everything.
Reading it off,
Oh, my
making
God.
those notes. Maybe I'll pause it, make a note. Okay, add this to it. Boom, and I feel more efficient like that. I'm not taking away. I'm not having it do everything, right?
Right.
I think AI is definitely a tool. Is there going to be a point where now AI is closing deals for me? Who knows?
But now in that instance, now where let's say originally you would have been able to do that for 2 clients because it's half a day each, da da da. Now you're able to fit 4, 5, 6. Potentially, theoretically, you just have a few meetings and it's generating all that for you.
Yep.
So now your efficiency is skyrocketing.
And I think that the biggest thing is that this is why people are so scared. It's the quality that you're able to produce at such a like high volume. I think with a lot of things like tools that we've used in the past, it's like they help tremendously, like noise reduction, for example. If you have a bunch of noise, I'm talking like visual noise,
Right.
and you run it through a program, and it'll take depending on your computer, it'll take some time to generate. It helps the final product, but it still takes time. You have something now where it's able to, again, going back to prompt, you still need to give it the correct prompts. It's not going to just output what you want it to be.
So I'm going to segue into something else. This ties in perfectly to that. Like, is there a danger in over-reliance of AI, over-relying on it? For example, I think I was talking to someone the other day about this, but now there's software that, let's say you're filming an event, your recorder fails, all you have is scratch audio from the camera.
Okay.
But there are AI programs that are able to somehow magically make it sound like it was recorded on a mic and it sounds crystal clear and all that stuff. So before, like, let's say someone's process is, I'm gonna set up all these backup audio recorders, like I need to make sure I'm good. But what if someone's now saying, well, worst case, AI is gonna take care of it for me. So I'm not gonna even, now the process changes, I'm not gonna do all these backups, I'm gonna be lazy. One audio recorder, it fails, I'm gonna rely on AI to fix it.
Let's dive deeper, right?
Yeah.
Weddings.
Yeah.
What's your process for setting up audio? What does that look like?
Right, so let's say it's a ceremony. I'm gonna mic up the groom, I'm gonna mic up the officiant.
Now, are you doing a
These are with lavs.
It's a lav, obviously,
Yeah.
but I'm saying, is it a wireless transmitter like the ones that we're wearing?
Wireless.
Or it goes straight to camera, or do they record on their own?
One of them goes straight to camera, the other one records on its own.
Okay, so let's break that down,
Yeah.
right? That means that's one memory card.
Uh-huh.
That's another memory card. So you got 2 memory cards that you need to pull audio from.
And then the third one, if there's a DJ or a band or a speaker system that I can plug into to get that feed. So that's another file.
Right, another
So-
file,
And then there's the scratch audio, but
which is in the body of the camera. So let's say
Right.
if you have a 3-camera setup, you're adding another 2 cameras. That's 2 more SD cards, 5
5
memory
to 6
cards,
sources of audio
Right.
here. That's usually how it goes.
and you're running them. You know, set them and forget them. They're running, great. You do it. Oh, now on to the next thing, right? Or let's say the same thing, same sort of set. Would you say the same setup's the same for
More or less for
reception?
the reception, yeah, more
Okay.
or less. Yeah.
Great. 5 sources. You now have to go into your computer. How long does it take you to grab those 5 and process it to transfer?
I mean, you gotta
organize?
dump all the footage, you gotta organize it, organize the audio files, double check everything, make sure it's all there. I like to label them personally, like reception audio, whatever, and then sync everything together.
So now you're listening to it. I assume you
Yeah.
listen back. You then try to hear certain keywords, and you're like, okay, this means ceremony. All right, so let me.
Right, exactly. Like
So
I'm looking for those moments.
I'm really trying to micro manage the time that we're collecting here, right?
Yeah.
So you're plugging these things in, you're transferring it, which takes X amount of time. Then you're reviewing it, which takes another X amount of time.
Yep.
And then what does that look like in the actual editing process?
Then we're bringing it into Premiere. We're syncing everything together.
Let me ask you a question, at least in my experience.
Oh.
How good is Premiere's synchronizing feature?
It's good, but it's not perfect.
So if it's
mean-
not perfect, what do you have to do?
Then sometimes I might have to manually go in and adjust something if it's not quite right.
And what that looks
and all
like? What does that look like?
That's not fun. That's where it's not fun. So you hope that Premiere gets it right the first time.
Because now you have to find that track, you have to
You gotta
zoom
find
in.
the exact moment. I don't know, maybe look for a keyword or something, match them up, make sure everything's synced nicely, turn off all the other audio layers that are useless, the scratch audio, and then go in and switch between speakers, audio between me and you, efficient and the
You got to
groom.
link the camera angle because now, like, Premiere's not able to differentiate between the speaker or like if you're doing multicam editor, which is a feature in Premiere, you just put it nested in a clip, but you still have to review it, you still have to cut
Yep.
it, you still have to do.
Yep, it's a
There's
process.
so much time, and look how long it took us to explain that entire process.
AI would have. Oh, I'm gonna get killed by a bee.
AI, you're listening. What do you?
AI would have already been done in less than this conversation. Less
But
than how
now,
this,
so we talked about the
came into-
process, the actual manual process of setting everything up, the transferring process, the post-production process. That's for you. Just all that entire process is just for you to start working on the final product. That isn't the final product. Now, let's run into a scenario where AI is booming. It's known to work.
Yep.
How many audio setups are you setting up now?
If it's perfect, we're talking about a world where AI is absolutely perfect, and it can take that scratch audio and make it crystal clear. Theoretically, I'm probably not miking anybody up at that point.
And by the way,
And if I'm trying to be super safe, maybe I'll mic up one person.
right.
And
But
like, all
but
right.
let's run through the scenario. This is another thing that we didn't even consider. How many times have you had to go chase a groom or a bride to try to mic them up? They're running late.
Well, that's one of the more stressful parts. Like if we're running short on time, oh, where's the groom? And you got to find the officiant. And let's say things are running late, and then you get people who are hesitant to put on microphones. They're like, I don't want to wear a mic.
He's wearing a wire. He's wearing a wire.
Whatever. So and then the DJ or the band trying to coordinate with them. So that's why, like, normally I have now at least an assistant with me. That's one of the reasons why I implemented that at weddings, because it's like sometimes there's these moments where I need someone else to go mic everybody up. I don't got time. I got to finish setting up these cameras.
Yep.
Like it's a whole thing. And then the reception's a little easier because you got a little bit more time to set up during cocktail hour, But for the ceremony, it can be crazy. But imagine not having to deal with that and just saying, AI is going to take care of it.
I just
We're
need
good.
to set up these cameras. Maybe the most you'll ever need is a shotgun mic, a really good shotgun mic, boom mic, whatever. And that's it. That's all you need. You know, maybe you set up another one just for some ambience, or AI is able to like give you 3 audio files from one source and say, hey, this is the ambient one, this is the key speaker, vocals, and then you have a balanced one, which is a mix of the both.
Yep.
It's like, I look at that as a business owner, right? We're creative suits at the end of the day.
Yep.
We're not just creatives. And this is the emphasis with creators that are trying to make it in the industry. Again, I'm far from where I want to be. I don't feel like I've ever made it, but I do see, based off of where I was and where I'm going, the things that I've been able to develop internally and also skill-wise, like externally, the way that I carry myself, so on and so forth. It's so important that everything is not about, oh, I need to play or work hard, play hard. You need to have that integration.
Yeah.
Like you have to have both. Like a story for me is like, I don't know if I mentioned in the last one, but like I do combat sports. One of my clients does combat sports. So for us to have that like same sort of, and the work that we do has nothing to do with combat sports, but we're able to like bounce ideas or have those conversations, and then we both compete in the same tournament, and we're like,
So it's a mindset thing.
it
It's
just,
a universal mindset.
I don't understand. We talked about it last time, right? Certain vocabulary, free time. What is that? I don't know what free time is. I just have my time.
Because you're very intentional with your time. So it's like calling it free time is almost like throwing it away.
Yep.
Whereas you're saying, I'm going to use every second, and it doesn't have to mean I'm working. It's just that you're intentional about when you're not working, because
I
it
think-
serves a greater purpose.
Here's my vocabulary.
Overall.
You are working.
Is that a cork? Sorry, I'm just like looking at this. I feel like someone's popping
that's funny.
champagne.
Champagne, yeah.
All right.
Jesse, I have news.
Oh no, that's not what I expected this to be about. No, not
No,
today.
no.
Not today.
Not today.
It's too soon.
Yeah.
It's too soon.
Yeah, going back, sorry. Free time,
Yep.
there's your time, but ultimately you are working every single day, working on being a better person. I don't believe, I've said this to a friend of mine, no one is intentionally trying to get worse every day. You're trying to get better.
Yeah.
So that time that we all have, it's on working, either on yourself, on a specific task, business, whatever it is, it's all work.
What would you say to people who, because sometimes that mentality can be almost knocked a little bit sometimes.
It's toxic.
As toxic hustle culture. What do you say to that?
Well, again, sleep, that's work.
Right.
I'm not, don't get it twisted. Going to a massage therapist or getting a massage or setting aside time to have a podcast or listening to an audiobook, all these things, watching a movie, that is work. All of it is work. But understanding the relationship with everything, including, you know, we all have things that we're working on actively. I'm trying to get in the best shape of my life. I'm far from it. but like I have work to do.
Right.
Some people might say that hustle, but again, in order for me to be in the best shape of my life, I have to sleep. I have to be in a good state of mind in order to go to the gym every single day. I mean, I believe sometimes when I don't want to, that's when I have to.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's self-care still. That is a form of self-care.
It is
but it's being integrated into your work-life balance. Or I know you don't like the term work-life balance.
Yeah, but I know what you're saying.
But
yeah,
you know what I mean.
But it's both. Like you have to. What is life? Well, that's like gets philosophical.
What is life?
What
That's
is life?
The question,
right? But it's existing.
Yeah.
We have an expiration date at some point.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do with that time that you're here? Unfortunately, I mean, some people cannot work a job. They might be in a position to not have to financially support themselves, mom, family. They might be in that position.
Mm-hmm.
Good for them. That's their situation. At the end of the day, us as a human existence, we have to work towards something. That's what I start to believe. And maybe that's going to change when I turn 30 or 40 or 50, whatever it is.
And that's okay.
And that's
okay if it changes.
As of right now, I can't help but see everyone, oh wow, there's this guy that's 40 years old and he just started this thing and he's working towards it. There's a pattern. Everyone's working towards something. And so what's work? At the end of the day, work is just equivalent to time.
Mm-hmm.
What you're doing in that time, if you want to label it as personal or relaxing or whatever, it's still time that you're using, and time equals work.
Right. It's still going towards a greater purpose.
Exactly.
That's the idea here.
Yeah. Again, fuck do I know? I'm 23. Like I'm like I don't know but anything.
Just a guy on a podcast.
Just a guy on a podcast. But ultimately, I just can't help but be like, there is nothing. It's funny. I'm trying to answer the question of like it's like that toxic like work culture, but it's like what's the downside?
Well, this is the way I think of it too. Is like, is it that it's toxic, or is it that the perspective that you're looking at it from, it's because you're not happy with what you're doing. You're not happy with how you're spending your days. So to you, this hustle feels toxic because it's not fulfilling that greater purpose. Whereas if you frame everything within a perspective or within a track, let's say, that it is for a greater purpose that fulfills you, then you look at it differently, and then it's not the same.
I don't know why when you say that, the first thing that comes to mind is like my health, right? One thing I've learned this year more than ever is like your body, mind and body, are trying to talk to you. Mm-hmm. They're telling you things. Hey, I'm hot right now.
Yeah,
it's hot.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
90 degrees for some context here. I'm sweating. I need to cool off. Let me add water to your skin so we can cool this down. Mm-hmm. So your body and your mind are obviously connected, and they're trying to tell you certain things. So when you feel like you have that midlife crisis or that quarterly crisis or you're depressed or whatever it is, your body's telling you something. And ever since I started to work on that dynamic between, okay, I'm gonna start listening to my body. I'm gonna start giving my body the things that it needs and the nutrients, the fuel that it needs in order to stay in a certain frame.
Right.
Mentally and physically.
Like you know how to keep yourself in a flow state, in a zone that you know you function optimally at, and you're not gonna get depressed and all this stuff, right?
100%. And I, by the way, not perfect. Did I tell you the story I think it was last week? I had like, I didn't have anything on my schedule, and I was like, you know what? Today's a day I want donuts.
Yeah.
I went to a place by me. Shout out Dip Donuts. They dip like these fresh donuts and like different things, cereal, Oreo, all this stuff. It's delicious. I killed the entire 6-pack in one sitting. And by the way, no productivity at all. Sat in bed. I felt disgusting, by the way, for some context here. Like I'm not proud of this, but ultimately I'm not perfect. That's the beautiful thing about it. I'm sitting in bed. I'm eating these donuts.
And
watching a movie.
I'm happy that you're emphasizing this because we are doing this Creative Soup podcast, and we're not sitting here saying like, you got to be this perfect person that every day has to go perfectly, and you need to be this entrepreneur who never does anything wrong.
But this is the one point, and I don't want to lose this because I feel like I might. You have to at least hold yourself to a certain standard, though.
Right, accountability.
I looked at myself after doing all that, just to fully get the kick out of it, watching movies, eating, falling asleep, waking up, oh, okay, watching movies, let me make something. I had empanadas, and then more donuts. All right, go back to sleep. Again, repeat the entire day. Sleep, eat, repeat. No work.
Yeah.
No project. My brain didn't have to work on anything. Oh, if anything, it was even worse. I'm watching a movie and I'm on my phone on social media, just like scrolling. Caught myself, oh, I'm mindless. I'm not even watching the movie. Put it down. And I literally felt like a zombie.
Yeah.
I wake up the next morning and I say, okay, you got to do that. Great. Don't punish. Don't be upset. Don't put yourself down. Yeah. Don't put yourself down on it. Just now make up. I almost see it as like you allotted yourself that time to do those things. This is how you're feeling. Acknowledge how you're feeling. Stay in that feeling.
I think that's important.
Stay in it. Feel gross. Look at yourself in the mirror and see that gut and be like, oh my God. What did I do the next day? I ran 3 miles. I went to the gym. I felt like absolute garbage because all that food and carbs are like, not, again, your body's talking to you. Hey, why would you put this in me? And you want me to go work out? Are you crazy? Hey, you know what? Fuck you, bro. Here's some vomit. Like, your body's talking to you. So I look at that dynamic and I just say, okay, I hold myself to such a caliber. Okay, I'm not perfect. I'm gonna enjoy. I'm gonna indulge, but you need to work in order to indulge. You can't just have that.
And I don't remember if we talked about this last time. We might have briefly touched on it, but for me, I feel like at least when I started freelancing, it was getting used to being able to do things like that and having those moments, but snapping back into my rhythm. And now I feel like I can snap back into it pretty relatively easily because it's a routine, like I got it down, but that's a process, that's a journey that takes some time as well to be able to be like, okay, I'm gonna do all this stuff or whatever, but now I'm gonna get back into it and switch modes.
There was something beautiful that I saw on social media. Shout out AB Marketing Group, Abed, one of the owners. He posted this video and I really resonated with it. And all he did was simply talk about what is, I don't want to misquote him, but what is I was gonna say a routine, but it wasn't a routine, but it was like momentum.
What is momentum?
Momentum is so hard to build and so easy to lose.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And so going back to that routine aspect of like you have a day of going out drinking with your friends, it's like how much effort are you putting into getting back in that routine?
Yep.
For example, today we had a long weekend, just how things were, whatever.
We were slow this morning.
Trying
to get work done.
Like my brain right now feels like, okay, on a normal day with that momentum that I would have had, my brain is at like a 10 a.m. right now. It's just waking up. It's now.
We just finished drinking some coffee, finally got things moving. But in the beginning of the day, we were both sitting there trying to get emails done, trying to talk about what we're doing.
It's just like, hold on.
Let's get some lunch. Let's just pause and let's go eat.
Yeah, literally. And it was the best thing we did because fueled up, water now. I can't help but okay, I'm sweating out all the BS that I had.
Yeah. No, I know. I feel you. I feel like always that first day back.
Yeah. So go on, let me ask you some questions. Because we want to stay on the topic of AI but I think this is all relevant, right? Working on yourself, understanding
AI can help with that.
Understanding the dynamic between, that, let's say, work-life balance or work-life integration, depending on how you view it. But ultimately, it's how is it going to help you as an individual, your existence. For you, have you started to make some changes? Have you started to implement with AI and you mentioned your concerns with it, but ultimately, are there some things in your life as of right now that you're trying to maybe work on or eliminate, or things that are pulling you away from what you are desired to want to do, that you feel like, okay, maybe AI can do this, or have you thought about that dynamic?
Well, for me, for example, time spent on emails is something I'm trying to mitigate. And I don't know if that means getting an assistant. I mean, at first I was thinking getting an assistant. I'm thinking maybe AI could just help me with this. But for example, an inquiry comes in, or a bunch of them come in, to take the time to sit down to answer that. But now AI could do it. If I have a script of how to answer somebody on so-and-so date, it could check the calendar for me. It knows I'm free. Boom, it responds to somebody. That's a lot of time when you think about it, that's saved. Post-production, creating content. Social media is something that's I still struggle with to this day because I'm just trying to focus on delivering things to my clients. So for me to run social media for my own business has always been a challenge.
Yeah.
And now I'm seeing opportunities with AI where it's I can create a piece of content and the AI can break it down into micro content for me, put the captions on it, actually create stories, which is the most mind-blowing thing. Actually create stories within these little pieces. And now I'm just social media can be fun again for me because to be honest, it stopped being fun. Having to go into Premiere, edit all these little things. So that's where my mind's at right now, is like trying to not just be more efficient, but actually have more fun again.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm always trying to do that with my career. Like there is a point where things start to get monotonous and like repetitive, and it's like, okay, it's you're just doing the same thing over and over. It's like a hamster wheel.
Yeah.
But something like AI comes along now, and I'm like, oh, this could be fun.
I want to recall a story or a brief thing that happened with us. By the way, this this podcast was edited by AI, straight up, Autopod. Like that's what we use. I think it's important, just as a creative suit, to touch on this, right? Being that high caliber individual.
I mean, honestly, without that, I don't know if we'd be able to handle doing this.
Right.
Being straight up, because we're both so busy. I barely have time to edit anything. Like, you want me to edit a podcast now and create content for it?
Another tool that we use for these micro cut-ups, what is it?
Opus.
Opus Clip,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I want to touch on this, not to segue, but I think putting people on to some sort of prompt engineering or giving value first. Everyone says
Yeah, of course.
that's literally the formula, 100%.
Mhm.
Give value first, give as much value as possible, and then have that maybe small ask. But your value is just so much that you delivered, where that ask is like, oh, dude, that's it? Like, is there anything else?
I want to bookmark that in my mind, because I know you're trying to segue into something, but let's come back to that
Okay.
at some point.
Okay.
All right, go do,
Do
do what you were going to say.
Oh, but bookmark what exactly?
Bookmark what you just said about giving value.
Giving value first.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
But going into Opus Clips, like putting people on, like there's, could be potential clients, but also creatives that are in the industry. Hey, if you're struggling, listen, we were one-man bands for a while, and I believe in the first episode we talked about, it's super necessary for you to go through that. But ultimately, the biggest thing I've learned is there is no secret sauce. If you believe that you have this one thing that makes you special, guess what? 9 out of 10, I bet you AI is gonna probably find out that secret sauce and get you out.
Yeah.
So
most
for
likely.
me, embrace it. Hey, if I can put people on to some sort of game or some sort of like technology or piece of equipment, hey, maybe you might benefit. Hey Jesse, here's a quick thing I thought of you. I know you're dealing with that thing.
Yeah.
Going back to community. Hey,
Community's
how can
big.
I help Jesse with as much as possible? And I don't want I really don't. I told my friends, I see it as a game. I don't know if I ever shared this with you. I can't believe I'm gonna like give it away.
Oh, no.
No. But
Secrets.
ultimately, I see it like a game. I don't want Jesse to ever give me more value than I give him. I always want to be the person that's giving him more.
It's about to be a value fight up
Yeah,
in here.
but that's in my head. In my head, that's how it is.
Yeah.
And I think it's a healthy. It's healthy in a way, because it's like I'm always thinking of ways
Right.
of like, hey, and again, I'm not trying to like tally these things up, but
Right.
ultimately that's my state of mind, is like always being, how much value can I give to this stranger? How much value can I give? Because I believe in karma, I believe in the universe.
Same.
Thing will come back tenfold.
So that segues into the bookmark that I
Okay.
had, because especially, I guess, one thing I experienced when I first started freelancing and I started meeting different other freelancers and business owners, one thing that I saw was a common theme, not with everybody. There's been a lot of creatives that don't think this way, but almost like people are a way to give away those secrets, or it's more about competition over community, right? As opposed to, is it community over competition? How's it said?
It's what?
You know what I'm trying to say? Like, what do you usually say? Community over?
Yeah, community over competition. Well,
Community
that's
over
actually
competition.
Paul Weaver. One
That
of the
guy,
guys
Paul
I
Weaver,
watch.
wasn't him. It wasn't this guy.
It wasn't me. No, I'm not original like that.
But there's a lot of people in the industry that think the reverse.
Yep.
Where it's like, no, don't give that away, or don't tell them how we do things, because now maybe they're afraid of their clients being stolen, things like that. And I've experienced that a lot. I experienced that before freelancing at the places I worked at. They didn't want us knowing certain things because, what if you go off on your own and you start doing it?
Yeah.
Right? As opposed to that mindset of like, why don't I give value? And the thing is, once I've adopted that giving value mindset, my relationships with creatives have only improved. I feel like not only do I feel better as an individual, but my work and my career actually gets better, because it's building this community, and you're not coming from this selfish place of like, this place of fear, because that's really where it comes from. It's like fear of someone outdoing you. But I feel like that's how you stay smaller. Like,
And I think that's why people are, and you need that, right? Because if everyone was like pessimistic versus optimistic, if you were more of how are the optimistic individuals going to stand out if there aren't pessimists?
Right.
Like there
right,
has
right,
to be.
right, right.
It's funny. I have tattoo on my ribs. The three things: it's gratitude, optimism, and discipline. And those are like, I'm not religious, but like if you look at the first letters of each word, it spells out God. And
Right.
those are the things like I just believe in. So like it's almost weird. Like I feel like it's in my DNA. I cannot be a pessimist. I have to be the opportunist. I have to be that person. If you're going through something, I have to give you a solution. Like I can't help but see the end of the tunnel. Things can be going so wrong for you or so wrong for me, and I can't help but be like, but it's in my DNA. It's literally engraved in me to be optimistic. So I can't sit here and soak too long. I have to see the light. I have to. It's just the way that I am. And like a lot of people, a friend of mine, Martin, he's always like, why are you so, like, you're philosophical or you're always optimistic? Like, I'm more of a pessimist. Like why are you like that? And I just like, I can't explain it. I don't know anything else. I don't know any other way. So for me, sometimes it's, I'm like sidetracking, I feel
No,
like,
you're good.
from your thing, but like, it's just how I am. And I think when you're growing up, when you're trying to figure things out, when life is just not going your way, it's important to take that, I don't even want to say step back, but stand still. Really analyze what you have here. Is this an opportunity? Or is it like, you might think of it as like, this is a huge setback. This is the biggest thing I've like,
See,
oh my gosh.
See the bigger picture. Don't focus on this micro moment that's happening too much.
And you don't even have to define it right then and there.
Yeah.
But see it as like, this is part of my story. That's the dialogue I have with myself, is like, you are your main character in your own story, however many years that movie's gonna last. But ultimately,
yeah, you're gonna decide, is this moment gonna make or break me? Like, you're pretty much the one that's gonna decide that in that moment based off your mindset.
But even if you do, even if it breaks you,
Yeah.
even if you believe it'll break you, Shia LaBeouf said it.
Shia
It's all okay in the end, and if it's not the end, fuck, I fucked it up. Hold on, scratch that. Scratch that. It's okay in the end, and if it's not, fuck, it's okay. Hold on, I have to get this. And I don't
We're not cutting this out now.
No.
We're all about authenticity.
AI is
and
cutting this
we're
off.
all about transparency here at Creative Suit Talk.
If it's not the end, it's okay in the end. And if it's not, okay. It's all okay in the end, and if it's not okay, it's not the end. Do I need to say it again?
Yeah, please,
Okay.
for the people.
Yeah. It's all okay in the end, and if it's not okay, it's not the end. And I heard that, and I was like, I remember like in middle school, your biggest thing is girls, and like you have, blessed. I was blessed enough to like not have any, family issues. Like my parents are together. Like I'm really blessed. And ultimately, like that was my biggest thing. I wanted to cry, and I wanted to do all these things that I don't even want to say, but it's like, you really think that that's your world coming down on you. It felt like that. And then to hear that quote and be like, wow, like I actually, let me go back a couple years. Oh wow, I was in that state of mind. Oh wow, look where we are now. Holy shit, like wait, what? So now hearing those things, it's like it all makes sense. And now you're able to recognize patterns more often.
Oh yeah.
I think that's a big thing, like
pattern
patterns.
recognition.
And AI. Go
AI
back to
does
AI.
that.
Pattern
AI's gonna
recognition.
do
That's
all
all it
that.
is.
Man.
You have to be your biggest asset. That's what I believe. Even though AI is a thing, you need to be your biggest asset. And if ultimately in business, if you can be the biggest asset to that business, AI is not replacing you. And that's my dynamic, that's my relationship with it. How can I help my clients utilize AI in our content strategy or the things that we're doing to help them now? Hey, rather than like one of my clients is now doing a newsletter, an email newsletter. And I'm not familiar with email marketing or newsletters, at least not right now.
Right.
But I can't help but be like, hey, I'm learning prompt engineering. How can I utilize prompt engineering with their email marketing, and then maybe suggest a certain thing, or maybe ask some problem or some questions to discover some pain points or some problems, and say, hey, here's a solution for you. Not in that dialogue am I talking about photo or video or creating DP. Oh, we need this type of lighting, or it's not about that. Like Chris Do says it from the future. If you still talk about exactly like what you make, you're going to be stuck making a certain amount of money. It isn't until you get out of that dialogue and start talking about the impact that it's going to bring, that's when you start to see the dollars. And that, for me, is that conversion from creative to suit. Suit is the person that's able to come in and say, this is the impact it's going to have. This is the strategy that you're going to get. So, yeah, it's interesting. Like I'm not scared of AI. I'm excited for it because it's
petrified.
Dude, it's going to be... I'm excited to see what people are going to do with it. Because I have my own set of like, okay, I'm figuring out in the admin area. Oh, wait, this guy made a whole video via AI.
And even ideation and script writing and storyboarding.
Creating treatments.
Yeah, all that. Because now you can visualize it quickly, easily, and actually it helps you be creative in an interesting way, because it's being creative for you in the sense that's creating these images, but that's feeding your process now.
So how many times have you been stuck during the ideation phase where your creative block, you're stuck creatively?
All the time. I mean, just recently, short film projects that I was trying to write and create and problem solve for, I lost not weeks of progress, but they were delayed by weeks, because it's just like, it just doesn't come to you that easily. And forget it. If it's something like a logo, even worse. Because that's like when you're trying to create a brand for the first time, you could get stuck in that phase because the logo has to be perfect, the colors have to be perfect. I don't want to release this to the world until it's just right, But with AI...
So let's talk about our experience this morning. That's exactly what we did this morning.
Creating a logo together. Now it's like, it's generating possibilities for you. And now that triggers conversations that get you out of that mental block. And now, today, we started off with one idea, and by the end of it, we have a completely new idea that I don't want to disseminate right now.
Yeah.
But without AI, we would have been without AI, trying to use big words out here. Without AI, I feel like we either would still be at that cafe right now, or we would have just said, you know what, let's do this. Let's try again next week.
Yep. I think it's going to help with procrastination. I don't remember the last time I procrastinated doing something. Because I think there's a peak interest, at least for me right now, in this is new thing I'm learning. AI,
right.
I always ask myself with okay, there's a new technique.
That dopamine hit,
boy. Yeah. I'm like,
oh,
wait, can AI do this? Let me find out. How can I phrase it in a way, with prompt engineering, to build the system eventually? Listen, by the way, my system that I built, that automation, it doesn't work fully. It has its limitations. Right now I'm experiencing it only handles 55-minute meetings and less. It can make a transcript, it can do the summary, it can embed everything into Notion.
Right.
But it's still lacking when we're having 2-hour meetings and there's they go longer, so it's figuring a workaround. I know I can manually go in, create a transcript, then rather than do that chain of automation, I have to manually take that transcript, copy, paste here. So it's all possible, but it's all about the process of how you get there and the speed that you can do it. So how are you, my question to everyone out there is how are you going to utilize AI to maximize your output?
Something to think about.
That's it.
After this podcast is over, go think about that and leave us a comment, DM us, and maybe we'll talk about it in another episode.
Do we want to briefly, because I think we're doing pretty good on time, just to sort of
time is good,
wrap up a little bit, but what do we have coming up? What do we have in the works right now that we might not want to fully go into, but talk about?
We got some short film ideas that are being written. I'm spacing out, sorry. I'm completely spacing out. Wait, what am I doing?
I was meaning more the guests that we're gonna have. We plan on having guests. That's gonna be fun.
So let's restart that. So,
no, we're transparent here. We don't cut shit out over here.
Yeah, we're trying to have some guests because we as much as I like talking to you, I get sick of it every now and then.
I don't want to see the same face every single day.
Also, it's just getting different perspectives, different people in different fields, not having to just be two dudes talking back and forth to each other, getting different ideas and different perspectives from different people in different fields, and I'm repeating myself.
Yeah.
But that's
but
the
to
idea.
Follow up, going back to what Creative Suit is about, that community aspect. One thing I want to share really quickly is we had a full meeting on, our core values. What do we want Creative Suit Talk to be about and stand by, and its integrity, community, accountability. So having all these things, be the main focus of the conversation. We're also very interested. I can't help, I would love for someone to maybe potentially see this, comment and say, hey, have you guys ever thought about this type of guest and getting this perspective?
Definitely.
Again, we're only
Feel free
two
to
people.
chime in.
We're only two people that can maybe bounce ideas off of each other and say, hey, this would be a good guest. Maybe this conversation would help this person.
Yeah.
I can't understand it, but maybe this.
And that's the whole point of the community aspect, right? It's for us to learn from each other, counter each other's ideas, because that might lead to some sort of other evolution within our businesses, things like that, but also provide value to the people back at home.
Yep, 100%. I think this is a great episode. I think we're good.
I feel great.
It's about an hour or so.
Yep.
Do we want to?
It's hot, by the way.
It's fucking hot.
It's
I want to
freaking
go
hot.
in a pool, honestly. I love this view, though. Can't beat this.
Very nice. Very
Good
nice.
atmosphere. Anyway, that's a wrap on today's episode. Be sure to like, subscribe, do the thing.
Follow, comment, download AI, have AI comment for you.
Holy shit! You just imagine an AI that's automatically
Yo, just make AI do all of your social media, what's it called, engagement. Just all of it.
I mean, I don't. That's
without being a bot.
Conversation, but yeah, no, AIs are not going to be bots anymore. It's crazy. Yeah, sir. Thank you for joining.
All right. Well, thanks for.
Actually, you should be thanking me for joining you in this, because I was walking by, and
yeah, please leave me alone.